That's exactly what I just put to that. What would you describe?
That was a common difference.
Common difference of?
Yeah.
N is like the term that you're solving for.
Yeah, you were here. You were gonna work, right?
Okay, so I know D is what's hard at, are you one and D one sorry.
They would have been one.
Oh, A is the amount, so A1 is the amount.
Or
D is how much you're learning.
the one that's right there.
What are you doing? Where are you going?
Okay. I wanna see what you guys.
Is it because he's lonely?
Yeah.
All right, AN, what'd you get? This one's usually the one that people get stuck on.
The total amount.
Kind of. Not really the total, but I kind of get where you're going with it.
Yeah.
Like what you're trying to find.
It's what you're trying to find, yes. So this is actually, I like to write it as the value of the nth term. Okay, so it's actually what the term is. If I say, what's the fifth term? And you're like, oh, it's 50. That 50 would be the value of the fifth term. So speaking of that, n is like that placement of the term. Where is it located in the sequence? It's in the 5 spot. So I'm going to put placement of the nth term. Okay, so again, those two are very, I feel like people get those a little bit mixed up. If I tell you that n is 5, it is in the 5th spot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be right there. But what an is what that value is. That's the difference between the two. A1 is the easy one. What is that? The first term. And it's not really just the first term, it's the value of the first term. Is what is the actual number that we're working with. In D, people were saying rate of change, which I totally understand that. But common difference here is what we're going to be working with. So every single time, what is the common difference? Are we adding or are we subtracting? Okay, write the explicit rule for the nth term of the arithmetic sequence given. So before we get started, I want you to take a minute and write down the formula that we're going to be using here based off if it's arithmetic or geometric. Oh, it says arithmetic. So write down the formula for arithmetic. Because I want you to keep writing it over and over and over and over again. I'll start you off, A sub n. And when you guys are doing these problems, what I would recommend instead of saying a sub n like I did, I say, okay, the value of the nth term is equal to, say them in your head when you're doing it, because then you'll start understanding what they are. Hopefully you got this. Okay? The more you write it, the better. So, what'd you say?
Oh, no, you're good.
So these are the formulas that you were given if you were not here yesterday. We're basically kind of just reviewing what we did yesterday. Is basically what Teddy is. We're going to take it one step further later on. Okay, what is the value of the first term? Sometimes I like to go off to the side and write those out. What is A1? 2. What is the common difference? 7. And again, that's just because I did 9 minus 2. That's how I got 7. And we're going to leave alone for right now. Whenever you're writing a rule, n stays the same. So we're just going to fill those spots in. So now I have the value of the nth term is equal to the first term, which is 2, plus our common difference, n minus 1. Yesterday you learned how to simplify that, so please go ahead and do so. Yes. If you're looking for a rule, yes. Yesterday I would have accepted it not simplified, but today we're making it. When you're done, only take a look up. Anyone else not here yesterday? Let me go over it. Okay, so again, when we ask you for a rule, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for something that I can plug any term in and get the value of it. Now, if I want to find the value of the 19th term, that's what that means. So if you guys want to write that out for yourselves so you know what a sub 19 is, it says value of the 19th term is kind of how I would say that in my head. It's supposed to be quotations around there. The value of the 19th term is what that really is. So all I got to do is do what?
7 times 19.
Yeah, I'd plug in 19 into my rule. And when you do that, what do you get?
Big number.
It's not a big number.
A number.
It's 128.
That's a big number.
I mean, it's a big number, but I think a big number, I'm thinking like long.
Yeah, these sequences get real big.
They do, especially with the geometric. Okay, take a minute and do the next one, 'cause it's basically the same thing. I'll leave this one up here for you to reference.
What is the negative? What did we do to get the negative 5 here?
I just distributed
the 7, forgot to distribute it to that one.
Whoops.
So that's negative 7. And then that's where you get negative 5. Combine it with 2.
Okay, thank you.
When you combine negative 4 and negative 4, does it turn into positive?
Joe, was that a hand? Did I see a hand over there?
No.
Was it just you again waving?
Yes. Yes.
Did you get the answer?
Sure.
Come on.
What?
What'd you do?
She was on all week, so.
So people will take off this week because everyone's is different. Like everyone's spring break. And she probably can catch up faster than any of her siblings.
Because I'm about to get it. Yeah, let's go. I got it over here. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Yeah. Oh, you still doing
All right, go ahead and check your answers. If you finished.
I got it right, guys.
Questions?
Oh, yeah.
I did see on Monday it said now that I think about it. All right, any question on that one? All right, geometric now. Or I lied, we're not doing geometric. We're still doing this, but we're solving for something different. We're given the value of the fifth term in this situation, and we're given the common difference. So we are going to be looking for something else. We're going to be looking for the first term in this situation. So let's first write out our rule. Or our formula, I should say. A sub n, which is the value of the nth term, is equal to the value of the first term plus our common difference, n minus 1. Always label what you know. I know the value of the fifth term. I know AN. AN is 91. I don't know A1, so I'm going to leave it alone. I know the value of the common difference, and that's -8. Now, I know N as well. What is N?
5 minus 1, but 4 on the
Yes, it is 5. Here's why. Right here. The value of the fifth term is 91. So the value of the fifth term is 91. That's why I always have you guys write that out, with the value of and the fifth term. So here's the 5. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to solve for A1, the value of the first term. So the goal is to solve for this highlighted piece. So let's go ahead and simplify this purple piece here. I have -8 times 4. What is -8 times 4? -32. And then I have my A sub 1, which is a value of the first term. And now what I do to both sides to get the value of the first term? Add 32. And our final answer? What?
59.
123.
What? Not 59. How'd you get 59?
It was -3. Oh, wait, no.
Well, you got
that was a negative.
okay. When you add that, you get what?
123.
123.
Yes.
Now, we need to write a rule based off this now. Okay, so that is a little bit, one extra step than what we did in the past. Now I know the value of the first term, and I can go back to what we did on the top. And we can actually write the actual rule. So let's go ahead and do that. I have the value of any term. Oh, I meant to simplify it. I should probably leave a little bit more room. What is the value of the first term? What did we just find out? 123 plus our difference, or minus our 8. And now we're going to leave n alone, because when we're working with the rule, we want to leave the n alone so that we can plug in anything else later. We want it to be simplified, so let's go ahead and simplify it. I should have left a little bit more room, but I didn't. I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I get 123 minus 8n plus 8. And what's my final answer for this one? What'd you say? 131 minus 8n. Very good. You could have rewrote it a different way, but I like to have my n front. Now go ahead and take a second and plug in 22 to find the value of the 22nd term. You can use your calculator, you can use your brain, but find the value of the 22nd term. Go.
So we always need A1 and D to be able to write the rule. If you don't have those things, you have to use what you have to find it.
Now find the value of the value of the 22nd term. Just gotta plug it into that whatever you have. See how I have that? You want to plug in 22. That's what that is.
Same answer.
Okay, so take a second, check your answers, and then do B, because B is the same thing.
You get -45.
B is the same thing.
Yes, because these should be the same.
Do B, it's the same.
Okay, call us over if you need help while you're working on B.
14 minus 1.
So you need to first find the value of the first term.
That's positive. That's positive.
It was negative here. 'Cause it was
That was one.
All right, flip the page. All right, so now we're going to do geometric. Go ahead and label those. Tell me what they stand for. Hopefully you know now, because they're basically the same as the last one, except for there's only one little thing that's different. I am not writing well today. Okay, when you're done, only take a look up. If you put first term for A1, that's fine. I just like to put value of the first term because sometimes I think first term, that to me sometimes sounds like the first spot. Okay. The ones below, write explicit rule for the nth term in the geometric sequence, given the sequence. So, if we're given the sequence, we have to find a couple things for geometric. What do I have to find in order to make a rule for geometric? What two things do I need? The rate and the first term. Thank you. Okay, so knowing that will help us later on when we are doing the problems like we were just doing for arithmetic. I like geometric because it's actually really easy to write the rule, but we have to first find R, and sometimes R can be hard when we're working with bigger numbers. So what is the rate of this one? Well, I'll just put R.
Divide by 3. No, 1 over 3.
Yes.
Negative 1/3.
Negative 1/3. Very good. Now, if you didn't know how to do that, you get stuck. You don't realize that right away. Remember what I told you to do yesterday. Oh, never mind. I didn't tell you to do this yesterday. A trick is to go ahead and take that second term, negative 324, and divide it by 972. If you want to find your rate, and kind of a little easy trick is for you to do it that way. And then you would reduce, or you would use your calculator to reduce it for you. Okay? What else do we need to know in this? The first term, which is? Good. Now I'm just going to write this out because I told you guys that it'd probably be best if you write it out every single time. I like to use parentheses here only because when we work with negatives, sometimes it can be a little tricky in your calculator. And again, we like these ones because they're pretty straightforward. The value of the first term we said was 972. My rate is negative 1/3. And then to the n minus 1. That's our rule. I'm just going to rewrite that down here.
Is there any simplifying going on where Ms. Sabo should multiply 972 times negative 1/3? No. Okay, don't do that. A lot of people tend to do that on these rules. Just leave it. Set two separate numbers.
What number am I going to plug in? What are we asking for here? What term? 10. Okay, so knowing that when we write this, one of the biggest things that people don't know what the 10 means. The 10 means it's the 10th term, the 10th spot in your sequence. So we're just going to go ahead and plug in 10 wherever I see n. So go ahead and do that in your calculator. I'll write it out for you. And this is why I like to use parentheses right here, because this one, if you don't put it in parentheses, it might give you the incorrect answer. And then to the 10 minus 1. Depending on your calculator, every calculator is different. You might use parentheses in the exponent too. Or a better way is, hey, you know what 10 minus 1 is? It's 9. Just know that and use 9 instead. What'd you guys get? And then press math enter enter. And what is the fraction? I like fractions better. Yep. Good. Questions? All right, do the next one. It's pretty easy. We can probably bust it out in a minute here. When you're done and done only, you can go ahead and take a look up.
Okay. Geometric tends to get a little bit easier as far as writing the rules. Sometimes plugging in is not as easy.
It is like physics. All right, we're going to go down to the next one, case 2. Hold on. Write the explicit rule for the nth term of the geometric sequence given a term in the common ratio. So just like what we did for arithmetic, we need to have two things. We need to have the value of the first term, and we need to have the rate. Well, we don't have the value of the first term. We have the value of the eighth term. So we have to plug that into our formula. So I'm going to write it out for you. I have a sub n, which is the value of any term, is equal to the value of the first term, rate, to the n minus 1 power. What is the value of the nth term? What are we going to use in this situation? Not 8. Negative 256, because you want the value of the eighth term. 8 we're going to use for n. Okay, so the value of the eighth term is negative 256, and that's why we're going to use that there. We don't know the value of the first term, so I'm going to leave that alone, but I do know the rate. The rate is negative 2. Very good. And what is the value, what is the term placement of negative 256? 8. Very good. 8. So we're going to go ahead and use that there. And that's coming from this spot. Okay, so that little sub 8, that's your n value. Look at kind of where it's at. That's your n value. Now, these ones are pretty easy, only because you can just type most of it in your calculator. Go ahead and type this purple piece into your calculator and let me know what you get.
The negative 2 has to be in parentheses.
What do you get? Not 256. Negative 128.
Negative 2.
Put little times there so that you guys don't get confused. Times a negative 128. Then what would I do to both sides to get the value of the first term?
Divide it by negative 1.
There we go. Divide by negative 128. So the value of the first term we found out to be 2. Okay, now we're just going to write our rule. We like writing the rule. You can go right to the end because you really don't have to rewrite it again. So I have the value of any term, 2 times our rate, which we said was negative 1. What did we say our rate was? Negative 2? Sorry. Negative 2 to the n minus 1. The n must be left alone for the rule. Now we can go ahead and go back, and what term value or am I looking for? 12. So go ahead and plug that in and let me know what you get. All you're going to do is you're going to plug in this 12 right where n is, and what do you get? Hardest part is plugging this in your calculator. Did you say 96? Yep, very good. Do the next problem for your homework.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? There you go. Do the next problem for your homework.